Your Denver Broncos have the absolute perfect draft situation unfolding right in front of them. Not only do we need a tight end when this year has one of the deepest tight end classes ever, not only do we need an inside linebacker when the class is extremely deep at inside linebacker as well, this year's draft class is full of some absolute studs at the running back position who I think would be the perfect complement to a J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey backfield, could be perfect insurance if something does happen to J.K. Dobbins, and we're going to break down how the Broncos could get a lot of these guys all the way into the fourth round. If you're new to the channel, I'm a diehard Broncos fan named Ben, and it helps me in the algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, smash that like and subscribe button. I don't need to remind you because we all equally hate the Vegas Raiders here. The Raiders last year spent a top pick on Ashton Jeanty, and he was outperformed, outclassed in all of these ways by a guy who the Chicago Bears picked all the way in the absolute 7th round of last year's NFL draft. So you see Ashton Jeanty, 5 touchdowns on the year in total, did not crack 1,000 yards, even though he almost had 300 carries, and it averaged 3.7 yards per carry. You look at Kyle Monangai, the Chicago Bears 7th round draft pick, who had 100 carries less, only a few hundred yards less than him rushing, the same exact number of touchdowns, and had 4.6 yards per clip. He also outperformed the other first-round draft pick in last year's NFL draft by the Chargers, in Omarion Hampton. And so the NFL is extremely weird when it comes to the draft because you have these guys, for whatever reason, who everybody falls in love with. Sean Payton calls it the hype train that happens, and you're seeing that again this year. As my favorite draft resource is the Ringer. They do this great draft guide. They've got 100 players ranked on here, and they only have 2 running backs in their top 100, who they even talk about, both of who played at Notre Dame. And I just think that this year's running back class, while it doesn't have an Ashton Jeanty or an Omarion Hampton, it has a bunch of guys who you are going to see make a difference next year in the NFL. We're going to break down a couple of those guys, where they're slotted to go now, and why it would be a absolute steal for the Broncos to get a couple of these guys. One of them in particular who I've really started to like after watching his highlights. So diving in here, I have taken Love off of the board. There's no chance in which he still is, even in the Broncos consideration. I would not be surprised to see him go top 10 in the NFL draft, which I think is way too much to ever draft a running back unless that really is your only need. And if you're drafting in the top 10, you have other needs than a running back. We saw how that worked for the Raiders last year. So I've pulled the next top 5 running backs in according to all these mock drafts and all of these draft experts to kind of talk about who would be a fit, how they performed in college, and then we have some highlight packages for each of them. But the one who is expected to go the highest is Jadarian Price, who split carries there with Jeremiah Love, followed by Mike Washington, which you're going to see. I think the Broncos might really like him. Seeing a 4.3 40 for a guy who's over 6 foot tall, that's absolutely crazy. I think he had the highest RAS score in the history of that test being given. Then we have a Nebraska Cornhusker. Typically, I don't like to even talk about them as a CU Buffalo fan, but I'm going to talk about him because he could be a great fit. Jonah Coleman out of Washington, another absolute stud, and Nick Singleton. So looking at how each of them performed last year, you're going to see here that the one who had the most touchdowns last year, let's start with him. So we're going to talk about Jonah Coleman out of the University of Washington, and a guy who did not actually have any combine numbers because he did not run at the combine for whatever reason. But you look here that he averaged 4.9 yards per clip throughout his entire college career, which is a pretty phenomenal number. And he is just like a human wrecking ball. You're going to see him here just never going down with the first tackle. He's constantly fighting through contact. Seeing there, like breaking 1, 2, 3, 4 tackles to get into the end zone on the CSU Rammies there. Just an absolute stud there who's got a great center of gravity, very, very athletic, and really like fluid hips there. You see that like his engine is always just keeping him moving. And I think that could be a really, really cool pick for the Denver Broncos because I don't think that, unlike a couple of these guys, I don't think that's duplicitous of any of the services that we already have. Like when watching highlights of him, he doesn't give me J.K. Dobbins vibes. He doesn't give me R.J. Harvey vibes. He does seem more of like a power type running back than a couple of these guys that we're going to see where you're like, wait, isn't that who we already have in R.J. Harvey? And we know that Sean Payton loves to have just different types of running backs in his backfield so that, you know, in a 3rd and 1, he wants a different running back in there than he wants on a 1st and 10. And in a goal line package, he wants a different type of running back. And so I think it could be a cool fit just because I don't think that is already something that we have on our team. So let me know in the comments, how do you feel about Jonah Coleman out of Washington? And most of the mock drafts are saying that he's not going to come off the board until 92. The Broncos absolutely would be in range there of having him. And if what I think George Paton and Sean are going to do is try to load up and find a way to get another third-round draft pick, get our third-round draft pick back, get another draft pick in there. So I think there's a very real world in which Jonah Coleman is a Denver Bronco. Next guy I'd talk about is the guy that the Ringer had as the highest other than Love on their draft board, and this is the other Notre Dame running back, Jadarian Price. And to me, you just see like raw athleticism out of him, just an ability to breakaway speed against some of the best competition. And there's a reason that he is mocked as high as he is. Like, he's an absolute stud, and you can see kind of how he could be a perfect fit here. A lot of his runs coming out of a pistol, which is something that a lot of Broncos fans wanted to see more last year with RJ Harvey. And I think his first touchdown, RJ Harvey's first touchdown last season, was out of the pistol, and then we didn't run it a lot. But I think that could be a really cool fit. But looking at his mock draft position, they're saying that he's averaging being off the board already by pick 46, which we know the Broncos aren't up again until pick number 60. So unless he somehow all the way falls to him, I think you take him off the list, but you're not that bummed by him being off the list because of a couple of these other guys that we have to talk about. So next one on the list is going to be Mike Washington, and this is the guy who I'm super hyped about as a possibility here. So talking about a guy who had 1,300 yards last season, 9 touchdowns, and take a look at how rocked up he is going up against this University of Texas guy. Does not go down there, just the power and the vision here and breakaway speed that once he hits the open field, he's as good as gone there. So that could be a crazy, crazy addition. And again, I think this is another one of those types of running backs where you don't really see his skill set matching perfectly with somebody the Broncos already have on this roster. Just like that pure power there of like goal line, just who's stronger, who wants it more. It's Mike Washington there to hammer that thing in. So hard to not get like really hyped about him. And again, you're not seeing him playing against CSU. You're seeing him play against he's playing Texas boys and Texas A&M and some of the best programs there are in college football, and never goes down on the first tackle. They're saying that his average draft position would not be until pick number 74. Again, very much he would be in range when the Broncos end up on the board at 60, if they do indeed choose to use that first round draft pick on a running back. Next guy I wanted to talk about is the Nebraska Cornhusker, and his average draft position isn't all the way until pick number 90. So if the Broncos are able to find a way back into the third round, definitely within reach here. And I'm really, really excited about him as a talent, but I'm not sure that he isn't just an RJ Harvey lookalike. But let me know in the comments what you think watching some of these highlights. But you see a guy who, I don't know, gives me like Reggie Bush type vibes, just very, very fluid, agile, a great pass catcher as well. So like we know Sean Payton wants a joker, but is RJ Harvey already our joker? And do we need another one? But you see a guy with Nebraska who ended up like being in the Big Ten and playing against some really good schools, playing Michigan, playing Ohio State, playing all these great teams, and still ended up, I think set a record when it comes to total yards from a Nebraska player in a long time. So very, very, very talented guy, and I think he could be a really cool fit. So it's almost two things I hate, because the quarterback he played with, Dylan Raiola, is like a Patrick Mahomes lookalike and tries to act like him, and I hate Nebraska. So let me know in the comments, do you think he could be a cool fit, or is he too much of like what RJ Harvey already brings to that backfield? And then last guy who could be, I've got 2 more highlight packages of this guy, because I think he could be a crazy good fit, because they're saying he's not coming off the board all the way until pick 114, and that's Nick Singleton out of Penn State. And obviously it's hard to not just like see a Penn State running back and remember the last great Penn State running back being Saquon Barkley. But there are some people who've said that like he's the best running back they've had since Saquon Barkley, and the highlight packages really show that. Like you see an incredible catcher of the ball out of the backfield, which we know is a huge value to Sean. And then you just see like an incredible amount of patience and vision in the hole. And then once he does hit the open field on a couple of these, you're going to see just a tremendous amount of breakaway speed from a guy who also has that power. So I think Broncos end up with him in the 4th or 5th round. Watch out. So check out these. This is the one I think had me the most hyped. Was watching his ability against some of the best talent in football. Just schooling. I think there's the highlight package here in 1 second where he's doing the most damage to that Indiana Hoosier team that ended up winning the national championship of any running back all season long. And so I think, like, why on earth are they saying that this guy isn't coming off the board until the 5th round of the NFL draft? So however you cut this up, Sean Payton, none of us had even heard or looked at film of RJ Harvey this time last year, and he had the most touchdowns of any rookie in the NFL this season. So Sean is looking at this year's class of running backs and saying, hey, I'm going to find a dude that nobody else even knows or believes in, and I'm going to make him a household name because that is just what he has done over and over. He did it with Alvin Kamara. Reggie Bush obviously was a top mock running back as well. But like Sean Payton, this is his forte. This is when he shines. I know he probably is dug into the running back class all the way down to undrafted running backs that could make a difference on this team. But however you slice it, this year's NFL draft is mapping perfectly for your Denver Broncos, and we got a ton to believe in.